Hi everyone. Sam's just trying to talk me into using ManyCam, which is a complicated program that allows for me to do more things in the classes that I teach than I currently do. And just then, and said, you'll have glitches as you go along, and that was a glitch. As usual, I am glad to be with you. Tonight we're going to talk about the second principle that is common to the spiritual traditions, according to Roger Walsh. He calls it cultivating emotional wisdom, healing your heart by releasing painful feelings and learning to love. Last week we talked about two aspects of love, eros and agape, also known as the ascending and descending paths, and how one without the other causes difficulties. The non-dual traditions integrate the two, saying that the many returning to and embracing the one is good and known as wisdom, and the one returning to the many is goodness and is known as compassion. There's actually a fair amount of chatter out there that prefers agape to be translated to compassion as opposed to love, just because we, at least in our culture, think of love as that sort of, I hate to use this word, but sappy, emotional kind of thing. In any case, wisdom sees that we are all one, and compassion sees that we are each an expression of the one. These two forces of love are described in the Encyclopedia of Religion as the single most potent force in the universe, a cosmic impulse that creates, sustains, maintains, directs, informs, and brings to its proper end every living thing. In other words, we are marinating in love. And when we release that which defends our heart, we can live spaciously in an unbounded manner. Listen to these words by the Buddha from the Yoga Sutra. As a mother watches over her child, willing to risk her own life to protect her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, suffusing the whole world with uninstructed loving kindness. Standing or walking, sitting or lying down, during all one's waking hours, one may remain mindful of this heart and this way of living that is the best in the world. We've talked often in our gatherings about the way that our hearts are defended or rubbled over, as one of my favorite Catholic theologians, Karl Rahner, says. And one of those ways, and I think perhaps maybe the biggest way, is fear. So tonight I'm going to talk about fear. I'm going to talk about fear because it is so pervasive right now. You can feel it in the air. I'm going to talk about fear because I think it's often at the bottom of the painful feelings that block our fullest expression. And I'm going to talk about fear because I've been paralyzed by it this week. So first let me say that fear isn't bad. In certain circumstances, what fear does is alert us to danger. And that is the fear of something in the present. That fear produces the adrenaline necessary to take care of whatever is happening or about to happen. If, for example, we had to evacuate, the fear of that would move us to focus our attention and do what needed to be done to get out of here. And there would be no thought in those moments or minutes or however long it would take, of anything in the future. We would be in the present doing what we needed to do. The fear that debilitates and paralyzes us is filled with thoughts and fantasies of the future. That's the contrast. Some even describe fear as F, fear, as F, false, E, experiences, A, appearing, R, real. Fear, false experiences, appearing real. But this fear is also not bad, because if we let ourselves explore it, we can get to the bottom of what's causing us to contract. And if we don't, we're caught in the painful cycle of contraction and withdrawal. The other morning, the morning actually that Sam was talking about, where it was 10:30 before I didn't need the lights to get around the house, and the sky was a weird, eerie orange red. I sat down, and as if what was going on outside wasn't enough, I started reading about the fires here in Oregon, Washington, and on and on. And I could feel myself begin to contract. It was familiar. We each have a particular way that we get caught in fear. The common is the heart races and the mouth gets dry. We aren't able to breathe deeply. One of the things that happens to me is I get very, very crabby. And so in that moment of feeling myself literally contract, I decided that I would use a practice that Roger offers in the Essential Spirituality book. Because, well, for a lot of reasons. One, I was suffering. Also because Sam often says when he gets up in the morning, he's a night person, so he tends to get up a little later than I do in the morning, that he gets on a moving train, because I'm already up and I'm going. And I thought, I don't really want him to come upstairs and see me in that state of, remember that poem that I read to you a while ago about I know what you're like when you haven't had a drink of the cup of love. And so I let myself shift into the practice that I'm going to offer you in just a minute. And as I was able to dig in and pay attention to what was going on, I realized that I was exceedingly sad, and that I had gone for days sort of numbing out in the face of one more fire and one more death and one more reminder of what we needed to do to get out of here quickly. So instead of being a crab when Sam came upstairs, I was sobbing. But at least I got to what it was. And sometimes it's not something other than the fear. But this practice, I think, will help you to do both. To discover if there's something within the fear that needs your attention. Because certainly after I stopped sobbing, I felt better. And or it will help the fear just begin to dissolve a bit. So I'd like you to close your eyes if you'd like. It helps you to move within. And as usual, when I give you these kinds of instructions, take a deep breath and think of something, perhaps not the worst fear you have going on, but think of something that you can use to practice this practice. And now, let yourself feel the fear and begin to explore it. Notice the sensations that are located in a particular part of your body. Where does your fear land in your body? How large is it? What shape does it have? What does it feel like? Is it a tingling, vibrating sensation? Or more like a hard, solid lump? And now turn your attention to other aspects of the experience. Is there an image associated with your fear? If so, what is it? Notice what your posture's like. And if there are particular muscles that you're tensing. Be sure and notice how your breathing is, and deepen it if you can. And do the muscles that have tensed relax at all as your breathing deepens and slows. Now take several really slow, deep breaths and explore the experience of fear again. Notice its location now. What size and shape does it have now? What does it feel like now? Carefully explore this second time, because the experience of fear, like all experiences, changes constantly. You may find that it has a somewhat different size or shape or feel from those of a few minutes ago. How are you holding your body? How is the muscle tension? Are the thoughts and images any different? And now notice something fascinating and freeing about the experience of fear. None of the sensations And generally, not even the thoughts and images are terribly distressing in and of themselves. Perhaps the muscle tension or an image is uncomfortable, but there's something about actually experiencing it that generally makes fear nowhere near as devastating as we imagine it. Rather, it is our unexamined beliefs or feelings or fantasies and our unexplored reactions that lock us into the painful unconscious cycle of automatic contraction and withdrawal. And now, if you're not already, adjust your posture so that you have a nice straight back with your shoulders relaxed and dropped. Does that do anything different for the fear? What's true is if you sit firm and erect, a posture associated with strength and courage, you tend to elicit those feelings and to diminish those of fear. And notice too that as you continue to explore the fear, it does tend to decrease, if not dissolve. Simply bringing conscious awareness to our dark states goes a long way toward healing. If you experience and explore a painful state with as much awareness as you can, awareness or mindfulness will do the rest. And once you have at least relaxed the grip of fear, you can practice a 2,500-year-old practice from the Buddhist tradition called metta, which is translated loving kindness. Because fear and love displace each other. And if you are filled with love, fear gets swept away. We all know how contracting in fear can overwhelm love. But we forget that love practiced and strengthened can overcome fear. Or in the words of the Christian scriptures, perfect love casts out all fear. So there are many phrases in metta. And one of my teachers used to encourage us to shift it, to make it really relevant for us. I'm going to give you very, very simple lines that are traditional in that they include 4 desired qualities. May I be joyful, gentle, calm, and loving. And just let yourself repeat them gently to yourself. May I be joyful, gentle, calm, and loving. You can begin by speaking the words, but gradually let them become softer and softer until you are repeating them mentally. Let the words sink into yourself. Metta practice, like any compassion practice, begins with ourselves. But if you like this, it's something that you can also use actually as a prayer practice for others. I said this, my variation on this phrase, every night to our son Matthew, literally until he left for college. And I have to believe that what sunk in for him is that he is love. In the Buddhist tradition, they actually ask practitioners to memorize the benefits of metta. So I'm going to close with that today. People who practice metta sleep easily, wake easily, dream peaceful dreams. People love them. Celestial beings and animals love them. Celestial beings will protect them. External dangers don't harm them. Their faces are radiant. Their minds are serene. And they die unconfused.